All right, heretics. I heard you were out there telling people that Elon Musk is the Antichrist. I heard you were out there telling people that China and the United States are Gog and Magog. I heard you out there telling people that the certain vaccine was the mark of the beast. And today we're going to fix all that. Because we're going to talk about the truth about end times and our roadmap to sound doctrine. First, we're going to look at a simple timeline of end times events. Number two, we're going to prove this timeline with the Bible. And three, we're going to talk about warning signs of false prophets, liars, and deceivers. So part one, we're going to look at this timeline, but I want you to note here, we're not talking about everything that happens in end times. We're talking about 20 key events here. And for you, Bible prophecy buffs, I want you to know we are not going to be analyzing interpretations of Daniel's 70th week. We're not going to be talking about the identity of the Whore of Babylon. We're not going to be talking about dual prophetic fulfillment with Antiochus Epiphanes and the Antichrist. We're not going to talk about the identity of the two prophets in end times, and we're not talking about the 144,000. These are more advanced topics, and they just kind of mess up the whole flow of this. Like, each of these topics deserves their own hour-long video, and I want this to be an accessible video for people who are not Christians or brand new Christians, or they're just confused about end time stuff. So we're not going to be getting into that stuff. So if you see me breezing past it, I am aware of all this stuff, but we're focusing on these 20 key events that are simple to follow and understand, and it should sharpen people's minds for end time. So when they hear something that totally doesn't jive with this, they'll know they're listening to a bunch of bullshit. So let's keep going. All right, so this is the timeline, and I'm going to make this clear throughout this, but all these events, it's not exactly clear what order they take place in, um, but we know they happen all around the same time. But I'll try to make it clear as I go through this, what we know comes after what, and I'm not really sure about. All right, so event number one. There's going to be a great period of wars and rumors of wars where a world leader emerges. This individual is the beast, and the world government he establishes is also known as the beast. So this is really important off the bat here. The beast is a person, and the beast is also the world government. It's important to make the distinction between the two when you're reading end times prophecy, because if you can't make this distinction, you're going to be really confused. We're going to know that it's the beast world government when it dominates the entire world like no kingdom or nation ever has. I know a lot of conspiracy theorists watching this are saying, we already have a world government, and you're right. We do have a world government of shadowy cabals and fraternities and secret societies and corporate lobbies and the Bilderbergers. I'm aware of all that crap, but we're talking about a de facto world government where no one's going to be confused about this. This is going to be an out in the open world government. This isn't going to be a shadowy world government. Our shadowy world government is pretty much setting the stage for this real world government right now. And when we have the beast world government, we're going to see that there are 10 world leaders or kings that run this world government in addition to the beast. One second. All right, and event number two. During this period of wars and rumors of wars, the global economy is going to crash, and it's going to cost the equivalent of a day's work to buy a small amount of food for one person. Event number three, during this period of wars and rumors of wars, there's going to be earthquakes in diverse places. This could mean unusual places or many different places. There are also going to be famines and pestilences. About this one, when it says diverse places, I want you to think I lean towards unusual places, because if there was an earthquake in like San Francisco or Japan or something, it wouldn't be that really shocking. But what if there were great earthquakes in like Chicago and London and Moscow? That would be unusual. Event number four. This is where we get kind of muddy. So as far as the timeline goes, at some point Jerusalem is going to be surrounded by armies. Event number five, at some point the beast, this is the political leader, he's going to be killed and then brought back to life, and the entire world is going to marvel and wonder about this person. Event number six, at the midpoint of tribulation, Satan is cast out of heaven. And I know a lot of people are already confused by this. A lot of people believe, I would say most people believe, that Satan is already in hell and they think he's like the ruler of hell or something. But that's not what the Bible says. That's like the Simpsons theology. That's Looney Tunes theology. In the Bible, Satan has never been to hell. He can come and go from heaven as he pleases, as we speak. And we're going to see at the midpoint of tribulation is when he's kicked out of heaven. Event number 7, at some point after the world government forms, the beast speaks incredible blasphemy, great things, declaring himself to be God. Event number 8, the false prophet does incredible wonders and miracles, convincing the whole world the beast is God. Event number 9, at some point the beast kills or removes 3 of the rulers that make up the beast government. And event number 10, the false prophet sets up an image to the beast. This is the political leader in Jerusalem and gets people to worship it. The image itself can talk. The false prophet causes anyone that will not worship the image and receive the mark of the beast to be put to death. This causes insane persecution of the believers to happen for 42 months until Jesus returns. This is called the Great Tribulation here. Event number 11, Jesus Christ returns in the clouds after the sun and moon are darkened and the rapture takes place. If you just spit your Cheerios all over the floor because you're hell-bent that the rapture is pre-trib, please watch this video I made, this presentation called The False Doctrine of the Pre-Trib Rapture. I go through every verse about the rapture and tribulation. I unequivocally prove that it is after the tribulation, and also I go through every verse I could find that people are trying to use to support the idea of a pre-tribulation rapture, and I debunk those. Please watch this. And we're going to prove that the pre-trib rapture is just totally false, and we're not even going to try to, because there's just so many verses that disprove it. We're just going to hit them by accident going through all this end time stuff. And so you're going to see in this presentation as well why this is false. But if you want me to really get in the weeds, please watch this presentation. Keeping going. Okay, event number 12. So this is after the rapture. God's wrath is dealt on the planet. 1 second. So these 7 trumpets correspond with these 7 vials, and let's go through them. So the first trumpet, hail and fire mingled with blood, destroys 1/3 of all the trees and green grass. The first vial, poured on the earth, grievous sore upon all the people with the mark of the beast that worshipped his image. Second trumpet, great mountain burning with fire thrown into the sea, killing 1/3 of the and 1/3 of the sea becomes blood, killing 1/3 of the sea life, and 1/3 of the ships in the sea are destroyed. The second vial, poured onto the sea, turning it to blood, and every living soul dies in the sea. Third trumpet, great star wormwood falls on 1/3 part of the rivers, making water bitter, and many men die because of the water being bitter. Third vial, poured on the rivers, fountains, waters, and they became blood. Fourth trumpet, 1/3 part of the sun is smitten, 1/3 part of the moon, and 1/3 part of the stars are darkened. Fourth vial, poured on the sun, men are scorched with great heat. Fifth trumpet, stars fall from heaven, opening the bottomless pit. Smoke comes out of the pit like a great furnace, darkening the sun. Locusts come out of the pit with scorpion-like stingers. They go after the unbelievers, torturing them for 5 months. They will wish they died, but they can't. Fifth vial, poured on the seed of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnaw on their tongues for pain. The sixth trumpet. Excuse me. 4 angels loosed from the river Euphrates, and they kill 1/3 of men with an army of 200 million otherworldly horsemen. And the sixth vial, poured on the great river Euphrates, and the water dried up. The seventh trumpet, the millennial reign of Christ begins. Seventh vial, poured on the air, a great voice from heaven says, "It is done," and there's a great earthquake such as was not since men were on the earth. Event number 13, during the wrath there are 2 prophets of the Lord. They preach the gospel to the world. They're untouchable. If anyone tries to hurt them, they die. They can stop it from raining and do other miracles. When these 2 prophets are finally killed, the world rejoices over their bodies that are left in the street for 3 days, and they rise again. And there's a great earthquake, and Jesus begins ruling with a rod of iron, ruling the world. Event number 14, the beast and the false prophet that deceived everyone are both cast alive into the lake of fire, and the remnant of their armies are killed. This is Jesus begins ruling, the remnant of their armies are killed, and they're thrown into the lake of fire. Event number 15, Satan himself is bound in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Event number 16, the people who were killed for the witness of Jesus in the tribulation live and reign with him on earth for 1,000 years. Event number 17, Satan is loosed out of the bottomless pit and deceives the nations of the world again, gathering Gog and Magog together to battle against the saints. They surround the saints in the beloved city, and fire comes out of heaven and destroys all of them. Event number 18, Satan is finally cast in a lake of fire. Event number 19, heaven and earth disappear, and the dead stand in judgment before God. Everyone that is not found in the book of life is cast in a lake of fire. Event number 20, the new heaven and new earth come. There's no more sea. The holy city, New Jerusalem, comes down from heaven. There's no more sorrow, death, pain, or crying. And the new city of Jerusalem is 1,500 miles in each direction. It's a cube. It's beautiful beyond description. There's 12 gates, 3 in each of the 4 sides. All right. So let's prove this timeline with the Bible. But first, let's set the stage. So I don't think any of these events are coming to pass right now. We're obviously setting up this whole world government thing, but I think we are right now, and where we're going to see in 2 Timothy 3 and 2 Peter 3. This has to do with like people's attitudes on earth. So let's look at 2 Timothy chapter 3. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Now as Jannes and Jambres withstood Moses, so did these also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate concerning the faith. So not only does this describe our modern TikTok internet generation, it also describes everybody in Congress. So I think we're right here. Look at 2 Peter chapter 3. This second epistle, beloved, I now write unto you, in both which I stir up your pure minds by way of remembrance, that you may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandment of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, which means they died, all things continued as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they are willingly ignorant of, but that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that was then being overflowed with water perished, but the heavens and earth which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long suffering towards us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. So I feel like this resonates with this time period a lot, because a lot of people obviously walk after their own lust, but there is a general census of like, where is the promise of his coming? Everything's been just ticking on as it's been since the beginning of time. So, maybe all this stuff is not true. And there's some confusion among Christians where it's like, why isn't he just coming and destroying all these evil people right now? Why are you waiting so long to do this? And the reason is because he's long suffering towards us and not willing that any should perish. I think even as evil as this world is today, every day thousands and thousands of people are getting saved. And when they get saved, you're going to the kingdom of heaven. So it's a good thing that the Lord is long suffering towards us and not just annihilating us, right after Jesus died, 2,000 years ago. All right. Let's get into this. So event number 1, wars and rumors of wars. There's an individual known as the Beast, and he's going to have a world government, also called the Beast, and we're going to talk about these 10 world leaders and kings. So let's start in Matthew 24, just for your notes here. This is a parallel passage with Luke 21 and Mark 13, and you're going to see these 3 a lot in this presentation. So Matthew 24, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. So, I want you to note here is we're talking about the second coming, and we're talking about the end of the world. So this is our kickoff here, is the wars and rumors of wars. Let's jump to Revelation 6 and see who is going to emerge here in the wars and rumors of wars. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering to conquer. And so we're going to see shortly that this person is most likely the Antichrist. Um, so I want to illustrate for you that there's the beast person and there's the beast government. So let's look at the beast person. So this is the first mention of him, this guy on the white horse. Let's look at Revelation 13. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So that's a very famous verse, but just illustrating you the beast is a guy. Let's look at Revelation 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw the beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and his great authority. When it says a crown was given unto him, I think that is in reference to this, Satan giving this guy his power, his seat, and his great authority. And so to get into the beast government, we have to go. So Daniel is written like 600 years before Revelation, and they have so much to do with each other. It's just fascinating. So Daniel has these dreams, and the first 3 beasts he saw, we're not going to get into it, but they're a lion, bear, a leopard, and they represent these kingdoms, the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persians, the Greeks. But then he sees this 4th beast. And let's check it out. So after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. It had great iron teeth, it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped with the residue of its feet. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So we're going to see shortly, these 10 horns are the 10 kings. They're going to be called 10 horns a lot in end times. Let's jump ahead to Daniel 7:19. Then I would know the truth of the 4th beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, his nails were of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped with the residue of his feet. So when it's saying he's diverse from all the beasts before, I believe this is telling you that these other kingdoms were, they're big world powers, and I think what makes this one diverse is this one literally conquers the entire world, which we're about to see in Daniel 7:23. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after him, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue the three kings. We're going to get into that later. But these 10 horns are 10 kings, and this is talking about the Antichrist. So we have the beast world government, we have the beast of a person, and this is just another verse illustrating the difference between the two. And the 5th angel poured out his vial in the seat of the beast. So it's kind of like saying the seat is like the place of authority. So in the United States, the seat of the United States is Washington, D.C. So this is the angel pouring out the vial on like the beast's capital of his, his kingdom. And then his kingdom is full of darkness. I think I hit everything, and we got one more slide on this. Alright, so continuing on with these 10 kings, we're going to get into this going into perdition in a second, but pay attention to this. And the 10 horns which thou saw are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So if we remember, we have the wars and rumors of wars. This guy's going out to conquer, and it could be assumed at some point after he's done with his conquering, he divides the world up, and he gives these people they receive their power as kings 1 hour. I think this is a literal 1 hour. Like there's a meeting at the end of his conquering, and they divide up the world. So there's the beast in the head of it, and then there's these 10 kings. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength to the beast. Revelation 19, this is just another verse I didn't want to deprive you of the beast and his kings and their armies gathered together to make war with him, just illustrating this beast is a person, and these are the kings, the 10 kings, and they have their armies. I want you, so this was one of the first verses we looked at, and this is where the white horse the beast sits on. I want you to compare this with Revelation 19, where the white horse Jesus sits on. So Revelation 6, and I saw, behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And so let's look at, so this is the counterfeit, and this is the real deal. And I saw heaven open, to behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. So the Antichrist is a counterfeit version of Jesus Christ. And that's actually what anti means. It doesn't mean, which we use it today to mean like I'm anti-abortion, means I'm against abortion. But it actually means in place of or instead of in the biblical context. So yeah, we got the beast, we got his world government, we got the 10 kings. During this time period of wars and rumors of war, the global economy crashes. So Revelation 6, this is right after the beast on his horse. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. See thou not hurt not the oil and the wine. Just to remind you, Matthew 24, we have famines and pestilences going on in addition to all the crazy warfare. And this combination of stuff is going to cause a economic collapse for the world. Famines, pestilences, war, and a penny is a day's wages. Talk about inflation, right? So a penny is like the amount somebody would get paid for working a day in the Bible, and a measure during this time period is 1 quart or 1 liter. It's a small amount for one person for a day. So imagine you work all day long and you basically get a loaf of bread for it, maybe half a loaf. I put this little hypothetical here, and I'm kind of regretting it. So my example is, in the U.S., minimum wage is $7.25. So imagine you worked all day, you got about $60, and that's how much it costs to feed one person for one day. But I don't know. I don't want that to. I don't want someone to walk away from this thinking the Bible says that you're going to have to pay $60 for a loaf of bread. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to give you an illustration of what it would be like to work all day and get a small amount of food. So event number 3, during the war and rumors of wars, there's earthquakes in diverse places. This could be unusual places. So once again, these are all parallel scriptures with each other. Famines and pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. Luke 21 says great earthquakes shall be in diverse places. Nation rising against nation, blah, blah, blah. Earthquakes in diverse places. So there's going to be earthquakes in diverse places during this time period. And once again, I don't think this is like, Japan and California kind of earthquakes. This is going to be major earthquakes in unusual places. And so I made a nice little end times checklist, because every time there's wars, every time there's an earthquake, there's an economic event, everyone always says, oh, it's begun. But if you can check all these boxes, then you can say it's begun. So if you can check the box saying, are there big wars taking place around the world? Is there one leader that appears to be conquering the world? Did the global economy completely collapse? Are there widespread famines and pestilences? Pestilences can be diseases, and it can also be like locusts or bugs eating crops and stuff like that. Are there huge earthquakes in unusual places? So if you can check all these boxes, welcome to the end times. At some point, Jerusalem will be surrounded by armies. So we've already, started beating this to death. So we got the wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes, and all kinds of stuff. They're going to start persecuting you. You're going to be hated of all men. And then it says, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So the controversy about this, people say this relates to the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD. But hold on, this is about the second coming of Christ and the end of the world, which did not happen in 70 AD. Also, I want you to pay note that Jerusalem is compassed with armies, plural. This is not the Roman army, which there was a huge Roman army that sieged Jerusalem, but it was only one army. We're talking about multiple armies in the wars and rumors of wars. And also in Revelation, we're going to see this 42-month period over and over again, but this corresponds to the Gentiles trotting the city underfoot for 42 months. This is not what happened in 70 AD. Just making sure I hit everything. Yes. Event number 5. At some point the beast will be killed and then brought back to life, and the entire world will marvel and wonder about this person, and then worship him. All right. Sorry, my voice is going to be totally shot by the end of this. Revelation 13. This is where we're going to see him get killed and come back to life. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And we already talked about this leopard and blah blah blah. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who can make war with him? And this gets some more clarification a little later in the chapter 13, 14. And to see with them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, excuse me, and did live. So I'll come back to this in a second. So we're talking about the fact that this world leader, the beast, is going to die and then come back. Revelation 17. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast thou saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. I know that's very confusing. We're going to make it not confusing in a second. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short pace. And the beast that was and is not, even he is of the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns we saw are 10 kings. We got that. So when it says is not, that's very confusing, but you have to understand this is an archaic way of speaking. And when they say is not, it just means he's dead. So let's look at Genesis 42 really quick. And Jacob their father said unto them, Me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and you will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. So when he's saying is not, he means they're dead. This is just an old way of speaking that nobody uses anymore. Nobody sits down their kids and says, Listen, kids, grandma is not. They would say grandma has passed away or something like that. So let's go back to this. So they saw him, and then he died, and then he ascends out of the bottomless pit because he died, and then they wonder about him. And when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So they saw him die, and they saw him come back. And once again, this is a counterfeit of Jesus. Remember, he's on the counterfeit white horse. He's also doing a counterfeit resurrection here. Yeah. Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about. Okay, so it says he has the wound by a sword and did live. There's a lot of speculation about what this actually means. Some people think this just means a weapon. But I want you to think about this, because if he was just shot in the head or something and happened to live, or if there was some because people get crazy head injuries. People have survived being shot in the head, and they've survived all kinds of insane things, which is amazing that these people can survive. But is the whole world going to marvel because they survived something like that? I don't think so. Considering the location this is all going on in, I think that this means he was executed with a sword. And if you're familiar with the Islamic world, one of the ways they execute people is with a sword, especially in like Saudi Arabia. I'm not saying Saudi Arabia is going to kill this guy, but I think that this guy they lose some kind of pivotal battle or something, and I think he's literally executed with a sword. And I think that then he comes back to life, and that's why everyone is like, losing their minds, marveling about this guy, because they saw him get killed with a sword. But that is just my speculation. Other interpretations of this are totally fine. These aren't like, bright line Bible doctrines where I would just scold somebody as a heretic for not agreeing with me. And there's a lot of that here. There is stuff people say about end times that's just totally nuts, but there's a lot of leeway in end times for different interpretations that are acceptable. Okay, so event number 6. At some point, Satan is kicked out of heaven. Speaking of things that are, other viewpoints are acceptable, this is probably one of the most confusing chapters in Revelation. in the whole Bible, really. And there's a lot of different interpretations of some of this stuff. I'm going to tell you my interpretation, of course. But the important thing we get from this, no matter what your interpretation is of some of this stuff, it is clear from the timelines given that Satan is kicked out of heaven in the midpoint of the tribulation. So we're going to talk about this woman. I think the woman is a poetic description of Eve. We're going to see Jesus Christ being born, and then when he's ready to come into his kingdom, Satan tries to destroy the woman, also known as mankind, in the first half of the tribulation, and then the second half of the tribulation, he tries to kill all the saints. The reason I believe that this woman we're going to talk about is Eve, because we're going to talk about her battling with a serpent. And if we go all the way back to Genesis 3, which is really cool, because Genesis and Revelation are the bookends of the Bible. Like, this is book number 1, this is book number 66. And this plot thread that starts in the first book is finally coming to a close in the last book, which is just awesome. All right, so just real quick back to Genesis 3. And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. And I think we're going to see that fulfilled here. So Revelation 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven. This is a vision. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head 12 stars. There's a lot of interpretations of this. Again, I think that this is just symbolic for like humanity, and this is possibly the 12 tribes or 12 apostles, what have you. What this is not is a literal constellation. I've seen lots of people trying to analyze this, and they're trying to like line up Jupiter and Neptune and a constellation of the moon and stuff. That is not what this is saying. This is a figurative interpretation or a figurative illustration. This is not talking about literal constellations and stuff. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. So this is why we know we're in end times. Well, 1, we're in Revelation, and 2, we're talking about the same beast. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God unto his throne. This is Jesus, of course. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath place prepared of God, and they should feed her there 1,260 days. So we're going to see this 1,260 days, also known as 42 months, also known as time, times, and half a time. This time period is explicit to end times, and we're going to see it over and over again. This is how we know this is the first half, because we're going to see in a second. We're going to go to the second half, but stay with me here in the first half. So the woman, she has Jesus. The Satan is trying to devour him as soon as he's born. She's fled into the wilderness. She has a place prepared of her. This is the first half of the tribulation. This is a clear time signature for that. And look at this. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Now, why is he called the accuser of the brethren? I'm not going to read these to you, but this is Job 1 and 2. This is Satan accusing Job, and he accuses the brethren day or night. This is what he does. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives to the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell with him. Woe to the inhabitants of earth and the sea, for the devil is come down to you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which had brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for time, times, and half a time. So before we just saw the 1,260 days. This is 1,260 days, which is a biblical month is 30 days. And so this is that's 3.5 years, and this is 2 years, or excuse me, time times and half a time. That's 1 year, times is 2 years, and half a year. 2 plus 1 plus 0.5, 3.5. So backing up a second, and to the woman were given two wings of a great eagle, and she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time, time, and half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. All right, so these verses I have a square around. They have many interpretations, and again, I'm not saying that mine is the right one or anything like that, but my 2 cents about this. Okay, so we're going to see that in the latter half of the tribulation, Satan has de facto control over the world, and he's persecuting the believers hard. And when it talks about how the earth is helping the woman to open its mouth and swallow the flood, I believe that this is talking about how the believers left during this time period are going to be like fleeing to the hills and the mountains, and they're going to be hiding in the earth. Because if you think about it, even if Satan has control of every army in the world, he has control of every police force in the world, he has all the technology in the world, if you have hiked your family into some remote mountain range, there's no vehicles that can go out there to get you. There's no helicopters or anything or planes that can land out there to get you. And so I think this is illustrating that the believers during this intense persecution are going to be hiding in the wilderness, and that's how the earth is helping them. But again, that is just my interpretation. Take it with a grain of salt. The important thing is that we know in the midpoint of the tribulation, Satan is cast to earth. And also consider this, Revelation 12 is the midpoint of Revelation. So it's kind of interesting that Revelation 12 is in the midpoint of Revelation, and we also have a midpoint of the tribulation chapter where Satan's being cast down. Pretty cool. Let's keep going. At some point after event number 7, at some point after the world government is formed, the beast speaks incredible blasphemy. So this is a major prophecy. So we're going to talk about this in Daniel. This is 600 years before Revelation, which is very interesting that Daniel lines up so much with Revelation, having been written 600 years before. Pretty cool. All right, so let's look at Daniel 7. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. Before there were three of the first, can't even speak, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Skipping verses. Now I would like to know the truth of the fourth beast. We already talked about that. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell. We're going to talk about the 3 falling in a minute, don't you worry. And of that horn had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellow. And I beheld the same horn made war with the saints. So we're going to see this making war with the saints. This is clearly what the Antichrist does. Skipping more verses. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom were 10 kings that shall rise, and another shall rise after him. He shall be diverse from service. We already saw that. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hands until a times, and the dividing of time. Remember, we just saw that? So this is the latter half of the tribulation, where, the Antichrist just has free reign to kill the saints. But we're going to see repeatedly he speaks words against the Most High. Also, when it says he thinks to change times and laws, we're going to see in a second he's going to declare himself to be God. But if you think about our calendar, today, it's the year 2025, and we are literally counting the years since the, birth, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So if you're the Antichrist declaring yourself to be God, it makes sense that you're going to want to change that. You're not going to want a calendar based on Jesus Christ. He's going to come up with his own calendar. So let's jump to Revelation 13 and see more about this speaking blasphemy. And they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Remember, we just saw times, half time. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, and all them that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life. And this gets into the false prophet. We're going to get to him in a second. Let's jump down to 2 Thessalonians 2. This is more about him calling himself God. Now we beseech you, brethren. Oh, this is also where we're going to accidentally disprove the pre-trib rapture. I'm sorry, guys. So now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering unto him, this is the rapture, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, nor be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter from us, as that day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or is worshipped, so that he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So once again, the Antichrist is declaring himself to be God. And when it says, let no man deceive you by any means, it should say, let no Baptist church deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. It's super clear the Antichrist has to be revealed before Jesus comes and you're gathered unto him. I'm sorry. I won't even talk about it because I'll just get too angry. Alright, the false prophet, event number 8. The false prophet does incredible wonders and miracles, convincing the whole world to worship the beast. So this is where we left off up there in Revelation 13. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell thereon to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. We already covered that. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven, from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had the power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by the sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So back to Matthew 24, we have another parallel with these wonders and deception. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, emphasis on if it were possible, shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before, wherefore if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth, behold, he is in secret chambers, go not forth. So we're being warned in Matthew 24 about this deception that's coming. Not going to read this whole thing to you, very interesting, but I just wanted to hit another verse where it says, I saw 3 unclean spirits come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, for they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the whole world. So once again, wonders deceiving. And this is just another verse talking about these miracles. Let's just get after it. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. So these crazy miracles the false prophet are doing, this is what convinces the world that this guy is God, and this is what convinces them to worship the image and take the mark of the beast. This is just a parallel with Matthew 24. For false Christ and false prophets shall rise and show, can't even speak, and shall show great signs and wonders to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect. If it were possible means the believers are not going to be deceived by this. Alright, event number 9. At some point the beast kills or removes 3 of the 10 rulers that make up the beast government. Back to Daniel 7 and back to these horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. This is the Antichrist, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and mouth speaking great things. And jumping ahead, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout. Skipping up again, skipping verses. Thus he said, the 4th beast, we already read that 10 times, and jumping here, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after him, and he shall be diverse from the first, and shall seduce 3 kings. So 3 times in Daniel chapter 7, it talks about how the Antichrist is going to come to these 10 kings, and at some point He's going to have to either, remove them. It says subdue them. That sounds a little, less you know, harsh than pluck them up by the roots. But since we're talking about the Antichrist, I'm assuming he's going to kill these people, and he's not going to write them a best in your future endeavors letter. So it's unclear to me exactly when these three people are killed, but at some point he has the beast government. There's 10 kings. At some point, three of these kings piss him off for some reason, and he kills them. Not really much is known about that outside of here. Event number 10, the false prophet sets up an image of the beast and gets people to worship it. The image can talk. We already talked about this. The mark of the beast, the insane persecution. So we already read this about him. Did we already read that? Yeah, I think we stopped right there. I'll start right here. So actually, let's go right here. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in the right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Blah blah. We already read that. So just illustrating again, this is the mark of the beast. The image itself is something that stands, is what I'm going to show you in a second. I think we already hit that. The mark of the beast. They deceived them, the mark of the beast. Alright, so this is where I want to get to this image thing. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth let him understand. So we're talking about standing in the holy place. So this is a physical thing that they're propping up in Jerusalem somewhere, in the temple. And Mark 13, but when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand. It's the second time it says that. And then Luke 21. This is back. I think this ties to this, because this is what directly precedes this event. When you shall see Jerusalem's compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. This is the desolation thereof when they put this thing up. Just a quick note about the abomination of desolation. So the abomination of desolation is actually an event where Antiochus Epiphanes sets up the statue of Zeus in the temple in 167 BC, and Jesus is using this event to describe a future event. Again, there's all this stuff about a dual fulfillment of prophecy that we're not going to get into because it just takes way too long, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. So when you're saying the abomination of desolation, it could either refer to this event where they put the statue of Zeus in the temple, or it can refer to this future event where this crazy talking image thing, which who knows if this is some kind of technology. I personally think that it's like some kind of satanically powered magic thing, but if somebody thought it was some kind of AI weird thing, I wouldn't, cuss them out for it or anything. Who knows? But I just wanted to illustrate for you that this image is something that stands up. It has a place where it stands up. This is called the abomination of desolation, and people worshiping this thing is why they get the mark of the beast. Yep, and so after this, we're about to see. Oh wait, we have another slide for this. Oh, this is okay. So the first slide, this is about the mark of the beast, or the image, and where it stands. The second slide here, this is event 10, part 2. This is about the 42 months. So the last 42 months of the tribulation are called the Great Tribulation. I'm just going to hit these verses really quick because you're going to see 40 and 2 months, 1260 days. You're going to see over and over and over again in end times, and it's your signal for where you are in end times. So we already read a lot of these things. I'm just going to hit it really quick. 40 and 2 months. This is how long he's given a mouth to do these things. But the court without the temple leave out, for it is given unto the Gentiles in the holy city, so they tread for 40 and 2 months. And we already talked about the woman. She's going away for times and half a time, which is 3.5 years, 42 months. So this is Matthew 24. This talks about, so we just talked about the image that stands up in the thing, and they're getting the mark of the beast, and he says, tell them which are in Judea, flee in the mountains. This is basically your sign. Once they set up this thing, the abomination of desolation, the image that talks in Jerusalem, this is where the Bible tells you to literally run for your life. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor shall ever be. And except those days should be shortened, there should be no flesh saved. But for the elect's sake, those days should be shortened. So what this is saying is that unless this time period was shortened by the return of Christ, literally everyone in the world would die. Um, Sorry, just hitting on these 42 months again. Daniel chapter 7 once again. Changing the laws. We already talked about that. Times, dividing of time. The woman, we already talked about that. Oh, so Revelation 6 here. So this is people talking after this 42-month period of insanity and persecution. We'll see people in heaven, asking the Lord, when are you going to kill this guy? So let's go back to Revelation 6 quick. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, and hunger, and with death, and with beasts of the earth. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them which were slain for the word of God, and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? So once again, we're accidentally disproving the pre-trib rapture, because these people are clearly killed by the Antichrist, and if they were all raptured away before he even came to power, how could they be doing this? It wouldn't make any sense. But so the pale horse is symbolic for this last 42 weeks when Satan's been cast to earth, and now the heavy persecution is beginning, and this is where everybody in the world would end up dying if it wasn't for Christ returning. So I think we hit everything. Let's keep on going. Event number 11, Jesus Christ returns in the clouds after the sun and moon are darkened and the rapture takes place. Once again, I have a whole presentation on this where we go through everything, but this is just going to be one slide about it. Let's tackle it like the big dogs that we are. Matthew 24, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. There shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So immediately after the tribulation is when the rapture happens. This is just super clear. Mark 13, this is a parallel passage. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can read it. After the tribulation, that's when the rapture happens. People will try to say that this isn't the believers, even though he's explicitly talking to his disciples and the believers. They'll try to say that this isn't the rapture of the Christians. This is like the Jews or something. But look at Romans 11, because they'll say that the elect, quote unquote, where is it? Gather his elect. They'll say that this is the Jews and not Christians, which is just absolutely stupid, because in Matthew 23 is when he just gets done arguing with the Pharisees, tearing them a new one. And you think he's turning around saying that they're his elect? That's dumb. So Romans 11, Israel has not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it. You see that? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it. Israel is not the election. I think, did we already cover this one? Yeah, we already covered this one, where he's exalting himself and stuff like that, and now I beseech you, brethren, the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, let no Baptist church deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there's a fall. Like, this is just so clear. And then 1 Thessalonians 5, let's just do this quick. But of the times and seasons, brethren, because he tells you all the times and seasons of end times in Matthew 24, and they're just hearkening back to it here. But of the times and seasons, brethren, this is the Christians, ye have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of our Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. I cannot tell you how many times someone has argued me on the internet telling me that the Lord comes as a thief in the night. But hold on, there's actually some ridiculous like Hollywood movie called The Thief in the Night about the pre-trib rapture, which if they only read 2 more verses, they would say, I'll just read it. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. So he does not come as a thief in the night for believers. So stop using that as your proof text that he's coming at any moment. It's just stupid. I mean, I can't take it anymore. I should speak to a therapist about this because I can't I can't deal with confronting what makes me so mad about this is that these are saved Christians. They're born again believers, and they're just not hearkening to the word at all. It just drives me nuts. But let's keep going. So God's wrath is dealt on the planet after the rapture. I'm not going to read this stuff to you. It's a lot. But we have the trumpets here, or at least up to the fourth one on the left side. Then we have all the vials on the right side. You can see God's wrath from Revelation 8 to 10 and also 14 to 19. I didn't mention this before, but one of the really confusing things about Revelation is chronological, but you go from 1 to 11, and then remember Revelation 12 was that midpoint where we had that crazy illustration about Satan being kicked out of heaven and stuff. After that chapter 12 is the midpoint, and then in 13 it starts over again. We're talking about the beast and the Antichrist going forth to conquer. This confuses a lot of people. So when you're reading Revelation, excuse me, you have to keep in mind that 1 through 11 are a chronology, then you have that crazy chapter 12, and then the chronology starts again in 13, because otherwise people don't understand that the vials correspond to the trumpets, because the trumpets come in Revelation 8, and the vials are coming in Revelation 16, but these are the same events. They correspond perfectly with each other. You know, it would be bizarre if these were separate events, but I just want you to be aware of that when you're reading Revelation, that 1 through 11 are one chronology, 12 is the middle, and then it finishes the chronology after chapter 12. So this is another controversial one. So event number 13. During God's wrath being poured out, there are two prophets of the Lord preaching the gospels of the world who are untouchable. If anyone tries to hurt them, they die. They can stop it from raining and do other miracles. When these two prophets are finally killed, the world rejoices. Their bodies are left in the street for 3 days and they rise again. Then there's a great earthquake and Jesus begins ruling the world with a rod of iron. So the reason this is so controversial is because of these first two verses here, but I'm going to clarify what this is about with Revelation 10 here. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God shall be finished, and he hath declared to his servants and prophets. So Revelation 10 and 11 go together, because we're going to see the seventh angel actually sounding at the end of Revelation 11. But this clarifies the time period you are in, because in Revelation 10 and 11 you are very much into God's wrath. You know, the rapture has already taken place. The wrath of God is being poured out. But what confuses people is because there's this poetic thing in the first couple verses that harkens back to the 42 months of the Antichrist, and so they think the witnesses are there. I'll just read this whole thing to you. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and this is a vision this guy is having. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall be tread under foot for 42 months. So we've seen that 42 months times, half and time. We've seen it over and over again. And then it says, I will give power unto my witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days. So this is my belief about this. This is controversial, but I believe that the 42 months this is what we've been talking about, where the Antichrist, this is the Great Tribulation, and this is happening after, because we're in the wrath in Revelation, but this is hearkening back unto this to explain why they're doing this for 1,203 days, which is the same time period. So I think the Antichrist is basically dealing his wrath for 42 months, and then God's wrath is coming for 42 months, and these two witnesses are there. So it's kind of like an eye for an eye kind of thing. But they can't be there they cannot be there, in my opinion, for the 42 months of the Antichrist doing the Great Tribulation, because we'll see at the end of this that the seventh angel sounds, and that's when the Lord, this is when the kingdoms of the world have become the kings of the Lord. So it just doesn't make any sense chronologically, because in order for this to happen, this is at the end of the wrath. It can't be at the end of the Great Tribulation. It wouldn't make any sense. So I'll just keep going. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,203 square days, clothed in sackcloth. And these are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. So these people have like magic powers, basically. They have the power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy. So I think it means that it does not rain for the on earth during God's wrath. I believe it does not rain for 3.5 years as they do this. And they have power over waters to turn them to blood and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies. So the beast is still there. We're going to see how the beast gets thrown into the lake of fire. So he's still there while the wrath is being dealt out. Sorry, 1 second. I got to go get some water really quick. Alright, I'm sorry about that. I literally have 0 video editing skills, so if I try to edit out me getting some water, it would take me forever. My Bible knowledge is excellent, my video editing knowledge is 0. Alright, so they have the power to shut heaven, they're smiting people with plagues. When they finish their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and they shall overcome them and kill them. So I wanted to make clear to you that the beast is still, during God's wrath, we saw that one point where the vial is poured on his seat. I want to make clear that the beast is still there, his kingdom is still there during God's wrath being poured out. So this is how he gets to kill them. So, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where our Lord was crucified. I believe this refers to Israel, obviously, because Jesus was crucified just outside of Israel in Golgotha. But this is controversial. I'm just letting you know it's controversial in case you want to do your own research. And they of the people and kindreds, of tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half. Which, what do you think that's symbolic of? How many times have we seen 3.5 years? And shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. So basically, after the beast finally kills these people, their bodies are just left in the street, and everybody's rejoicing over their dead bodies. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry and shall send gifts to one another, because these two prophets that tormented them that dwelt on the earth. And after 3 days and a half, which again, what do you think that's symbolic of? The spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood on their feet, and a great fear fell upon them which saw them, which I would be pretty terrified if I was them too. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And the same hour there was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and the earthquake was slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe come quickly. This is why I'm saying we're in Revelation here. Obviously we're in Revelation. We're in the wrath. And the 7th angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of the Lord and his Christ, and ye shall reign forever and ever. Skipping some verses. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou should give reward unto thy servants and the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name, small and great, and they should destroy them which destroy the earth. So at the end of this, when they die, they go up to heaven, and this is when Jesus comes with his army, and he's the one that starts ruling the world with a rod of iron after this, and he judges the wicked people, and he starts giving rewards to the servants and prophets and saints, presumably giving them some kind of authority to do something. All right, let's keep going. Event number 14. All of them are going to be much shorter from here on out, just so you know. Event number 14. The beast and the false prophet that deceived everyone are both cast alive in a lake of fire, and the remnant of their armies are killed. Revelation 19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse. Remember, he's the real one coming on the horse, and this is starting to happen after those witnesses are finally dead. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that received the mark of the beast, and them that worship his image. And these were both cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. And jumping to Revelation 20. just this is just further illustrating that the beast and false prophet are burning in hell. This is a literal hell. This is a lake of fire. This is not some kind of state of being where you're separate from God's love. Sorry, Orthodox people. Uh, Revelation 20, and the devil that deceived them was cast in a lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and false prophet are, and they shall be tormented day and night forever. That is not a metaphor. That's not symbolic of something. It is literally telling you that they're going to be burning in fire forever. All right. Event number 15. Satan himself is bound in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Revelation 20. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is called the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more. Till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. Excuse me. Event number 16. The people who were killed for the witness of Jesus in the tribulation live and reign with him on earth for 1,000 years. So the serpent's thrown into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years, and during this time period, everyone is the people who were killed by the Antichrist are going to live and reign with Jesus on earth for 1,000 years. And I saw the thrones, and they sat upon them, and the judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus. Once again, we're accidentally disproving the pre-trib rapture, not even trying to. They can't be beheaded for the witness of Jesus if they weren't there, and for the word of God, in which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So I'm going to talk about false prophets and deceivers out there now at the very end, but really quick, there is a huge number of people on the internet who believe we are already in Satan's little season. So they think that the 1,000-year millennial reign has already happened, and right now Satan was loosed from hell, and that he's gathering people for the battle of Gog and Magog. This is stupid for many reasons. The first and foremost is Jesus Christ is not reigning on earth right now. There is no holy city where Jesus and all the tribulation saints are, reigning over the entire world. That's just a ridiculous thing to believe. That is not true. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But there's a huge number of people that this is like the latest and greatest internet conspiracy, is that we already are in Satan's little season. This is biblically illiterate. It makes absolutely no sense. Oh, 15, 16. Now we're on 17. Oh, we got 18 too. All right, so event number 17, Satan is loosed out of the bottomless pit and deceives the nations of the world again, gathering Gog and Magog to the battle against the saints. They surround the saints in the beloved city, and fire comes out of heaven to destroy them all. Once again, there is no saints, ruling from the beloved city right now. That's impossible for us to be in Satan's little season. It's also funny. There's tons of people that think Gog and Magog are like Russia and China or something, and you're only off by about 1,000 years. This is not something that's going to be happening anytime soon. Revelation 20, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, shall go out to see the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And they went up the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, that thing that doesn't exist right now, the beloved city that doesn't exist right now. And fire came down from God out of heaven, devoured them, and the devil that deceived them was cast in the lake of fire and the brimstone. Lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever. Which is the same thing over here. It's the same thing. So Satan is cast into the lake of fire after he's loosed out of the pit, and this is like the final battle in about 1,000 something years. And that leads us to close to the end. So event number 19, heaven and earth disappear, and the dead stand in judgment before God. Everyone that is not found in the book of life is cast in the lake of fire. So let's look at Revelation 20. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which was the book of life, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead that were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast in the lake of fire. This is the second death, and whosoever's name was not found in the book of life was cast in the lake of fire. So really quick. So I know it says the dead were judged out of those things according to their works. So I don't want you to walk away from this thinking, oh man, if I do something bad, I'm gonna have to answer for it when I'm dead. I mean, if you don't believe in Jesus, you will. But I want to make super clear to you that if you believe in Jesus, and you are saved, you're justified freely by his grace. Psalms 103 applies to you. As far as the east is from the west, so far hath he removed our transgressions from us. This is people who are not saved being judged according to their works, and that's why they go to the lake of fire. Like, you are judged according to your works as far as like your rewards in heaven, but you are not going to be like, you're not going to go up to heaven as a saved Christian believer and have God read you this riot act of everything you've done wrong. Jesus already paid the price for all that stuff. If this is confusing to you about the dead and their works and who's saved and who's not saved, I made these two presentations. Please watch them. This is basically the 15-minute version of this one, but this one I go through the gospel in 15 minutes and tell you what it is and what it isn't. And this one I go through it for 2 hours. This one's really designed for Catholics and Orthodox people. The reason why most Christians go to hell, the false doctrine of justification after salvation. So this is 2 hours long. I go through every verse I could find about salvation. I go through every verse I could find where people were trying to say, they're trying to twist it and say that you got to have good works to go to heaven. And really quick, this Romans 3:19 through 28, this is the gospel. Let's do it really quick. Romans 3. Now we know that whatso things soever the law saith, it saith to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty for God. So everyone is guilty before God. Therefore by the deeds of the law shall no flesh be justified in his sight, for by the law is the knowledge of sin. So by the deeds of the law, following the law, doing good works from the law, no one's going to be justified doing that. But now the righteousness of God without the law is manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, even the righteousness of God which is by faith of Jesus Christ unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. This is super important. No one is good enough to go to heaven. Everyone has fallen short of the glory of God. And that's why for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, being justified freely by his grace. Because people will say, oh, you think you only got to believe, blah, 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 blah. You think you can just believe? It's like, no, I think I'm justified freely by the grace of Jesus Christ, who died for the sins of the whole world. So once again, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God has set forth to be a propitiation through faith in his blood, to declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are past through the forbearance of God, to declare, I say at this time, that his righteousness, that he might be just and the justifier of him which believeth in Jesus. Where is boasting then? It is excluded. By what law? Of works? Nay, but by the law of faith. Therefore we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law. This is super clear. Nobody in heaven is going to be boasting about their good works. Nobody's going to be boasting about how they follow the law. Everyone is going to get there by the law of faith, which is you are justified by faith alone. It's not faith plus works, it's faith plus nothing. You believe on Jesus Christ and he saves you. And I go into it forever in this one. And this is the short nutshell version of that one. But if you have any confusion about this, please look at these. Super, super important. All right, we're getting to the end here. Event number 20, the new heaven and new earth come. There's no more sea for whatever reason. And the holy city, New Jerusalem, comes down from heaven. There is no more sorrow, death, pain, or crying. The new city of Jerusalem is 1,500 miles in each direction, and it's beautiful. Revelation 21, and I saw the new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from heaven, from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Revelation 21. And God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for all the former things are passed away. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but this describes the city of heaven that comes down after the earth. The old heaven and old earth are gone. There's 3 gates. The 12,000 furlongs, there's 1,500 miles, but it's beautiful beyond description. It's wonderful. It's a physical place. It's a real place. When you believe on Jesus Christ, as we talked about here, you and your family can spend eternity here. Which I have this other presentation, I should have linked to it or something, but it's called The Reality of Hell, which also should be called The Reality of Heaven, because there's so many so-called Christian denominations that do not believe heaven is a real place. They don't think it's a real place, despite the painstaking detail the Bible goes into describing this to you, even telling you how big it is and giving you dimensions and stuff. I guess they think this is all figurative, but I'm telling you, heaven is a real place, and all you have to do is believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and you shall be saved. You shall go there. All right, so part 3, warning signs of false prophets, liars, and deceivers. This is going to be really quick, and then we're done. All right, so warning signs, you're listening to a bunch of bullshit. This is in no particular order. So there's tons of crap on the internet, and it's all BS. Not all of it, but the vast majority. And so if you see any of these things, you may as well just click off the video because you're not going to get anything worthwhile out of it. So number one, people who predict end times with calendar dates, for example, they'll say the great earthquakes will start on 9/27/25, or they'll say Jesus will return 2/20/2045. I think just recently in like 2018 or 2017 there was some big thing where it's like Jesus is coming back September 23rd. Anybody who says any of that crap is just an idiot. Totally just turn away from them. Don't listen to it. There is nothing in end times where you could possibly come up with a calendar date. We just went through practically, we went through a large part of end times, and did you see anything that could remotely tell you any of this stuff? No, I didn't think so. So anybody talking about this, it's super popular, super common. They want the clicks on their videos. They want, advertising revenue or to sell books or whatever. Anyone who's calling out these specific dates is a liar. Liar at best, I would say idiot at best, liar at worst. They talk about fallen angels and creating the Nephilim who are returning. I know a lot of you believe this, and I created this is actually the first video I created because I was so sick of hearing this crap on the internet. The fallen angels did not create the Nephilim, and this is a presentation where I go through every verse about fallen angels and the Nephilim and the giants and all this stuff, and I think I unequivocally prove that this is a bunch of BS. So anyone talking about fallen angels creating the Nephilim who are returning or anything like that, just click off it. It's garbage. You're not going to get any real information from them. Number 3, they talk about red heifers or blood moons or any obscure astronomical signs or events that supposedly herald the events of end times. Just for note, the only red heifer in the Bible is in Numbers 13 and has nothing to do with end times. It's symbolic for the blood of Jesus Christ. A very cool story, but we don't have time to get into it. There's nothing in the Bible about red heifers. The only thing that happens with the moon is when it's darkened, like right before Jesus comes. So you'll see these people, they'll be like, there'll be 3 blood moons in the year 2026, and this is prophecy of the end. That's all bullshit. Don't listen to it for 1 second. Number 4, they make a living selling sensational books about end times, and they appear on radio shows and podcasts, which it's not wrong to sell books about end times or appear on radio shows and podcasts, but you get these people like Steve Quayle that have been doing this for decades, and what they make their money on is being sensational and coming up with the craziest nonsense possible for listeners. It's just complete nonsense. So if you see somebody who has like 20 books about end times, and they do all this stuff, there's a very good chance they're just completely nuts. This kind of leads to number 5. They obsessively sell precious metals and survival food and act like these things are going to happen tomorrow and you should build a bunker under your house. I'm not saying owning precious metals and survival food are bad. I have precious metals and some survival food, but these people, they obsessively push it because the way they're earning their living is they're trying to sell this stuff, and the way they're selling stuff is by just saying a bunch of BS about end times that's not true. So I'm not saying don't get these things. I mean, even without end times, even if the world wasn't ending, you should have precious metals and some food just because disasters happen. I mean, every year in the United States, there's some crazy hurricane or something that, leaves thousands and thousands of people SOL. And you don't want to be those people, so you should have this stuff. But anyone who's like really pushing this stuff, like say you go to their website or you go to their channel and you're just immediately assaulted with ads to buy precious metals or food, they're telling you a bunch of BS. Number 6, they say insert person is the Antichrist, whether it's Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Elon Musk, whatever. We saw a lot of stuff about the Antichrist in this presentation, and we can unequivocally say that none of those people are the Antichrist. I mean, the Antichrist is not here yet. I mean, the Antichrist, his time and place is when the world government is established. We have the shadow world government now. We don't have the real one. So anyone saying anyone who is currently a politician or media figure is the Antichrist, they don't know what they're talking about. Don't listen to them. Number 7, they believe Gog and Magog are nations on earth right now. I actually saw somebody, because obviously my YouTube feed is just full of end time stuff and all kinds of Bible stuff. And I saw people this morning where some guy had like an hour-long video speculating who is Gog and Magog. This is 1,000 years bare minimum into the future. This is after the millennial reign of Christ. This is not anything happening right now. It's not Russia. It's not China. It's not the United States. It's not the UK. If they're talking about Gog and Magog as if this is a current cryptic thing, they're totally wrong. They don't understand the Bible at all. Number 8, they're convinced the COVID vax is the mark of the beast. There was tons of these people before, and I think since nothing happened as far as the mark of the beast, they kind of faded away. But we saw the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is explicitly tied to worshiping the Antichrist, who the world believes is God. I'm obviously anti-vaccine, you might have guessed. So I'm by no means telling you to get this thing. I think you'd be a fool if you got this. But this is not the mark of the beast. At best, this is foreshadowing for the mark of the beast, but this is far from the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast has to have a world government and an antichrist, and we have to have all that stuff we saw has to be going on. There's the wars and the earthquakes, the famines, all that stuff has to culminate to the mark of the beast, and we are just unequivocally not there yet. So anybody talking about how anything's the mark of the beast, if they say, the thumb scanner at Disney World's the mark of the beast, just turn off nothing. If they're so wrong about this, they're not going to be able to tell you anything about end times that's worth a damn. Number 9, they have a prophetic dream every week or maybe every day, and they put it on YouTube, and they have incredibly vivid predictions of things that are going to come to pass. They're always scary and terrifying for their views. Yes, I'm aware it says in Acts chapter 2:17 that it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and that your sons and daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, your old men shall dream dreams. This is true, but these people they're just clearly full of crap and milking their viewers for subscribers. Think about Daniel. If you go to the book of Daniel, his visions are coming years apart. And this is Daniel. Do you think some random guy on YouTube who has terrible doctrine is getting a vision every night? It's just stupid. I know there was this guy who he had a vision that Donald Trump was going to get shot in the ear or something, which is all very interesting and cool until you realize this guy has like thousands of predictions that never came true. He's just a nut job milking people for their views and their attention. Number 10, they say things like, God told me to tell you viewers on my channel this, or, the Lord came over my heart, and, he told me to tell you this. Anybody who says stuff like that is an idiot. Just turn it off. Number 11, they firmly believe we are Satan's little season. They talk about the mud flood and Tartaria. This stuff is just insanity that I can't even get into. I can't even get into this, but so the Satan's little season people who believe that this is Satan's little season is now, which we already established it can't be, because if that was true, then Jesus is reigning somewhere on this earth with all the tribulation saints for 1,000 years. And please point me to that city. I'd like to visit. It's just not something that's happening. And if you want to go down a rabbit hole of total insanity, look up mud flood and Tartaria, because they're always associated with these people. But yeah, so that's the end of this presentation. I hope that was enlightening for you. I hope you have some kind of idea about end times now. And most importantly, I want you to be able to tell when people are just full of crap. This wasn't a PhD level dissertation on end times, but after watching this, you should have a pretty good idea of what's going on in end times. So when someone tells you a bunch of BS, it's BS. God bless you all. Have a good one.